Hello, you multi Muscovodians, and thank you to RD Pete 131 for that malt mention. Welcome, fans, malt mates, and rum curious. Yeah, it's a rum review. Let's start by just making that absolutely clear. To Ralphie Review 1036. Double checks it. It gets confusing with all these numbers over time. They all add up. They just keep going in one direction. Thank goodness. It does simplify things slightly. Not a lot, just slightly. But welcome to the Bothy. Welcome to summer season in the middle of the Irish Sea. The month is July. It's getting a little bit quieter for Scotch whisky commentary, and you will notice this online. There are bargains to be had at the whisky auctions. There are fewer releases during the summer because, particularly in the UK, fewer people buy whisky during the summer months. In the middle of summer, we don't tend to see so many big whisky festivals. There are a few, don't get me wrong, but they tend to be at the beginning or at the end of the year, either early summer or late summer, not usually right in the middle. And there's a reason for that, and it's because it's quiet season, and it's always been a tradition. It's always been the case. And even, looking back in the days, the good old, bad old days, back in Scotland, back in the 1970s, I can distinctly remember that summer was a time for wine, particularly homemade wine. It was a time for some very rudimentary and simple cocktails and basically soft drinks mixed. And I know that a popular drink at the time was called Babycham, which was a perry or a pear cider of sorts, which frankly was very innocuous, slightly sweet and completely inoffensive. And you'll find that with many rums. They're kind of slightly sweet, innocuous and inoffensive because primarily rums are created as part of the cultural heritage, unlike whisky, which particularly single malts, which is there for sipping. There's not a lot of rum sipped. Not globally, and certainly not where it's made. The rum tends to get put into fresh fruit, quite delicious, but fresh fruit cocktails, your pina coladas, your tropical, your sunsets, and all the rest of it. But there are increasingly rums worth sipping. They stand shoulder to shoulder with Scotch single malt whisky for a very simple reason. They're good but different. And the secret of success with rums for sipping is avoiding the ones which have been dosed with sugar. Now, I can hear what you're saying, malt mates. You're saying, hey, Ralphie, well, don't you get whiskies that are dosed with sugar? Indirectly. Yeah. PX casks? Yeah. I've got to agree with you on that. But let's not get too complicated about this. I'll cover that in another video. So I've got a rum here to review for you as part of a mini season. I'll be extensively extending. Can I say that? No, I'll just leave it to extending. I'll be extending the rum season on my Patreon channel and to a certain extent my Discord channel, because my next Bothy Live is going to be Rum Shack Live. There you go. In which any questions that I address will not be relating to whisky, they'll be relating to rum, because we all need a alternative, a change, a distraction from the ongoing process of, for the best reasons, but from the ongoing process of institutionalising our palates to a certain taste profile and a variety of taste profiles around barley, malted barley grain whisky. There are more flavours out there, and there's some genuinely exciting alternatives to be found, and it helps us cope with a off-season from whisky, which is a very good thing to have, and I'm going to recommend it to you for a couple of months because when you come back to the whisky, your palate will be refreshed. You will find that you have bottles of whisky in your collection that you go back to and you read them slightly differently when you're smelling and tasting them. So here is the first of my rum. I've got 2 rums to review for you. One's a Jamaican rum, but this is a Cuban rum. Both from the Caribbean, right? And there's a reason for that. I like the Caribbean rums the most. Within the rum world, the most diversity of flavour and presentation is to be found in and around the Caribbean, whether it be the Demerara rums of Guyana, whether it be the pot and column still Agricole rums of Martinique and Guadeloupe, or whether it be the heavy molasses rums of Jamaica and, well, to a certain extent, Barbados. This particular rum is from Cuba. Now, before I go any further, for all you American malt mates, you'll be struggling to find this. This is what's called a legacy situation. It's not the case that America is boycotting and ostracising Cuba anymore. It's the reverse, right? If you want to try Cuban rum, pay a visit to Canada. Or if you've got friends in Canada, get them to bring you a bottle as a gift. It's as simple as that. The reason I'm choosing Cuban rum is that, particularly Havana Club, which this is, the better quality, even as a basic rum, it's good. But as a better quality rum, it can be really quite amazing because of the natural spice-driven complexity that you get in the Cuban rum genre, that field of rum. It does vary, particularly when you go to Cuba, and I have been to Cuba just for a kind of cultural holiday type historic tour, which was fascinating, but I certainly wouldn't want to live there. I can tell you that right now, for the record, no chance. It is certainly, when you go as a tourist, it comes across as quite quaint, but you can directly connect with the struggles of the people on that island, particularly when they're so well educated to understand their predicaments. And there you have it. Hopefully things will change, because the humanoid collective is quite suppressed enough as it is. Let's focus on the rum now. Oh, super spicy. Super duper spicy. It's almost the rum with a little bit of everything in it. It's light, it's dark, it's agricole, it's molasses. That's why I've selected this. This is the Selección de Maestros. It's bottled at 45%. And it's an absolute masterclass in the blending and rum creation abilities of the Cuban rum makers. It is so sympathetically constructed as a rum, coming from many casks being put together. As you can see, I've had this bottle for a few years, and I want to make that transparent to you. I bought this quite a few years ago, and I have been slowly sipping my way through it on and off for the last few years. If you're struggling to find it in the retailers, and you really need to go to rum specialist retailers for this, have a look at the auctions. Keep an eye out on the auction sites, because recently, and I'm talking in 2023, 2024, we're seeing more special editions of Havana Club appear in the UK market, and frankly, I'm not hugely impressed with them. It's the slightly older, earlier versions, when there was simply less knowledge about this brand and less demand for it across Europe. This is when it's been really sparkling, and what I notice immediately in the nose is a wonderful, sensitive combination of younger spirit and older spirit being married together impeccably well. Seriously. This is such an exquisite, slow sipper. Do not cocktail this up, because if I hear you have, I will come right through that lens that you're watching, whether you're on your mobile or your laptop, I'll come right through and give you a smack in the face. This is not for wasting in cocktails. Just saying. Just sharing. Nose. Without coming across as sweet, it's beautifully tropical fruit, soft raisins. It's as if there's sherry casks involved here somewhere. And that wouldn't surprise me, because there's a strong connection between the Cuban rum industry and France. And France in particular. There's sherry influence there, and bear in mind that they speak Spanish in Cuba, and many Spanish holidaymakers go to Cuba, and in Spain you find the bodegas. So you're getting this real European sensibility, the style of construction, which comes across as quite French, but also it's got that sherry thing going on, but not overtly. We're not talking about an overcoat here. We're talking about something that really shows up the delightful, soft, spicy nature, the allspice, the cardamom, the very soft, almost dusty, light cinnamon notes. Ironwood bark as well. I know that's Australian, but I tell you, that's what I'm getting off this nose here. The nose will keep you happy for hours on end. Taste. A light brown sugar, eau de vie, enriched with very soft, slightly sour fudge, beautiful vanillaed toffee, again a complete array of soft spices, all restrained, nothing imposed, the level of constructive balance in this rum puts many whiskies to shame. If I was to try and convince you that this was in fact a whiskey, you would say to yourself, well, it's been matured in rum casks. What is it? Oh, it must be Tamdhu. Right. It must be a better version of Glengoyne, for example. Something that has that completely unpeated, self-confident basic identity that you get in the non-peated single malts. It is very self-evident here. It's delightfully presented. I've added about 4 millilitres of water. The nose starts to become, something's lost and something's gained in the nose. You find immediately that there's slightly fruitier, slightly more confectionery on the nose. And I'm talking about fruit pastels. It's not getting much sweeter. There's too much balance and poise in here, and it's not being disrupted. On the taste, my initial reading is it's like the finest of cognacs. Do you know, I tasted a very recent bottling of Havana Club at a rum festival in London recently, and it was nowhere near as good as this. Nowhere near as good as this. It was far more oak driven, far more woody, a lot more splinters. This is, frankly, it's the finest Havana Club I've ever tasted. there's not a lot more to say, but I just can give you one final. Really, that's about it. This is my review. It just, it's the best. It's the best version of a good brand, and I wish you good fortune if you can find a bottle. Because if you're a whiskey drinker in particular, or you're just a rumster, it's just, in its own right, it's a phenomenal experience. What did I pay for this? I think I paid about £75 for it. It was well worth the money for the quality of what you're getting. An absolute showcase of authentic blender skills. Beautiful wood sour note coming through now, adding to the complexity, extending the development just that little bit. And the finish is just that little zing of unsweetened Muscovado sugar. I'm giving this a rum mark now. Yeah. 89 out of 100. It's a rum mark, by the way, not a malt mark. It's a rum mark. And there you have it. If you're going out as a whiskey drinker to buy rum, be very careful what I buy. Be very careful what you buy, because I'm very careful about what I buy. I'll be going into this in quite a bit of depth in my next live stream, my 2-hour live stream coming along shortly, but that's for Patreon subscribers. Just to keep control of the quality of the comments and the people being there for the right reasons, because I know that other live streamers have had significant problems if it's just completely open to anybody turning up, so that's the reason why there's a small paywall there. And I'll just be really deep diving into rum and giving complete feedback on the Rum Show in London 2024. So if you want to subscribe, you're very welcome to join us and develop your rumology, because that's what we're all about here, rumology. And I'll be tackling rumology in my extras coming along shortly, just giving you a general overview of the rum scene from my perspective. And Ralphie Review 1036 extras. See you there.